As hundreds of thousands of students head off to university, this year's freshers are the first to face the new fees of up to £9,000 a year. And across the region, many have decided that the cost is just too much to bear. The University of Derby, for example, has seen a 25% drop in applications. Rob Whitehouse has been there to meet the new intake.
They may have the world at their feet, but these 2012 freshers at the University of Derby also face a colossal debt on their back. Tom and Beth are paying tuition fees of £7,500.
With the economy the way it is, getting a job's going to be even harder, so it's whether university is as much value for money as it used to be.
There is certain parts of it where it can become a bit overwhelming, sort of when you have to think about how much trouble you're going to get in with all the debts, and obviously there's paying for your accommodation as well as your uni, and it's a lot to take on really.
Beth and Tom are certainly not letting debt spoil the fun of Freshers' Week, and this university is certainly doing its best to contain tuition rates. The average fee here is £7,400.
Applications were down nationally, and we more than reflected that trend, and undoubtedly the uncertainty about the new fees regime this year has probably put off some students at a time when, quite frankly, there's never been a more important time to go to university.
Nevertheless, the burden of student debt is immense. The National Union of Students estimates that those paying £9,000 tuition fees will, once living costs are added, graduate owing, on average, £53,000.
So what does all of this mean for students? Well, Freshers' Week is certainly changing. Once it was a pretty simple affair. Drink a lot, fend off the combined forces of Christians, socialist workers and conservative students, and just have fun.
Oh, well, thank you very much for coming today. I know it's Freshers' Week, and I know that you
now
would rather
they
be
attend
outside in the
seminars
fresh air,
on
possibly
making
trying out
yourself
for
employable.
So can I just ask, how many of you are thinking about work beyond university and actually sort of making yourselves more employable?
I come from quite a poor background anyway, and I don't want to be in the same position that I know my parents are in. So, I work hard, get myself into a good job, and hopefully, make the money in the future with the skills that I've learned.
Higher fees certainly seem to have focused the minds of these students.
Gloria, you've got a degree in social sciences. Nigel, I believe you did classics. Would you, though, have paid £9,000 a year for those courses? Nigel first. Think about it, long and hard. £9,000 a year.
I think I might have struggled to convince myself, but I mean, yes, I think university is a great experience. Yeah, people with degrees on average earn £150,000 more over their career.
Would it have affected your decision?
I might have
to do
something with a
classics?
little more job links, but actually, I think you do a subject you're interested in and that you're good at, and actually that you think will give you the
hopefully you get a job at the end of. Yeah.
I think that is important for people looking at going to university now. They need to see the links to how they'll become more employable.
It's become far more important. What about you, Gloria? Would you have gone to
sociology?
Yeah.
I loved it and I enjoyed it, so yes, but what I was also quite conscious of actually at university is you do want to get that little bit of an edge over your peers, so I threw myself into lots of things like being a course rep.
So you'd have found the dosh then? To go to university if you'd had to pay the fees.
You'd have to find
you pay it back.
I know you pay it back.
But I mean,
you know what I'm saying.
That's an important point, Mike, because some kids out there do think they have to find £9,000 up front.
Well, no, but they'll have to pay it back at some point, won't they?
If they're earning over £21,000.
No, you would pay less under Labour. I mean, £6,000 a year, that would be £9,000 in total. I know that's not going to be of that much comfort to Tom or Beth, but you would be better off. You'd definitely pay less under Labour. But Maria, I just wonder if we need to be a little bit more imaginative about how we do university, because it is awful to see, to face that level of debt, and whether, the kind of way that we do degrees for 3 years. I mean, could we condense them? I'm speaking just as an individual Labour MP, and not as
why should you do the students coming through out of the chance that you had of 3 or 4 years at university? You've benefited from that. Why shouldn't they?
Do you remember, Mary, Nigel, when you arrive at university and your tutor says, right, your first year doesn't count for anything?
In October. Yeah.
I mean, I think some of your viewers would be quite surprised at that.
I don't remember my lecturers saying that, but you both come, let's face it, from areas traditionally with low numbers of people going on to further education. This isn't exactly going to help, is it? it?
No, and I'll tell you what
And
else
don't
is-
we need people with
Totally.
good qualifications?
No, we do, and that's why what we didn't want to do was just cut university funding so less people could go. We needed to
No, that's
find
not
a
true,
way.
Nigel. We've got fewer
to give
places.
We need to
We've got
find a way
fewer
to give
places than we
universities
ever-
the extra money they wanted. Now to find a way of paying for this. So what we're saying is that
But
if
as
you
a
go to
result of
university,
that, we're
we'll
seeing
lend
a
you all the
drop
money
in
to go,
applications,
and
aren't we?
You won't, yeah, but the message needs to go out there. The university is a great experience if you're able to go and you want to go. It's
And if
the
you
best
don't
way of
worry
enhancing
about
your
paying
career.
it back in the
and you won't
future.
have to pay it back until you're earning over 21,000 a year,
And
only 9% of what you earn over that. It's not quite the
Yeah.
terrible debt that people think they're going to have weighed on them. Or they don't then
And
have
it
to
could
fund
be
that money.
free when a tiny number of people went to university.
Yeah.
I'm not sure me and you would have been in that
No,
tiny because I think we both came from pretty normal backgrounds. So widening access was so important. Now, this gets less headlines, but it's so important. 15,000 fewer university places because of the cuts to the university teaching grant. Now, that really worries me when it comes to access.
I suppose you could argue, of course, that university isn't for everyone, is it? I mean, not everybody will want to go to university, and we need people with a broad range of skills anyway, not just people with degrees in this and that.
Apprenticeships and vocational training is very important for those people who are who prefer that way or are better suited to that way. But the question is, why is it really fair to ask those who don't go to university to actually pay for those that actually do, who'll end up earning more? I mean, we've found a balance. We're going to perhaps disagree over the amount of what the fee should be, but the system's there. We've tried to make it as fair as possible.
And what about kick-starting the economy, though,
Nigel?
Nigel? With manufacturing and everything like that, we do need people with degrees in engineering and...
That's why we need to fund proper quality courses so they can get the training they need and the skills they need to actually make our business competitive. Absolutely right.
OK, you talked about this cap on fees that Labour would bring, £6,000 cap on fees.
That would be a maximum.
Yeah, well, so how would you make up the shortfall then? How would it be paid for?
So we would, there was a corporation tax cut for all businesses. We'd reverse that for just the banking industry, and we'd use that to fund that. We'd also make the 10% of the best earning graduates pay more.
So there's a graduate tax then, another tax?
So, well, no, we're just, so
the top
everybody
end.
would pay less, but if you earned a lot of money, if you're in the top 10% of earners, then we think it would be fair for you to pay a bit more. These decisions are easy, but everyone apart from the top 10% of earners, of graduates, would pay less.
You're
under
shaking
Labour
your head
government.
at that.
Well, a graduate tax would have been absolutely unworkable and unfair. I think it's right that you actually pay back what you spend, otherwise you're going to end up universities charging whatever they like.
OK, well, I suppose time will tell, won't it, if people do actually pay it back in the end, or whether we're going to end up with a huge, even bigger amount of debt to come.